The Oklahoma Sooners announced their presence in a dominating fashion with a 73-0 victory over Arkansas State to begin the 2023 season. First and foremost, certainly you understand the opponent was not the strongest opponent in the world, and I think it'll be interesting to see as the weeks go how bad is this Arkansas State team? Was this just a ridiculously bad team, or is there a decent amount of improvement that we've seen out of the Oklahoma team? And I think there's probably a little bit of both that can be attributed to that, right? So I'll go through a lot of the goods, and then maybe just a couple of things to watch for that some teams might be able to. A lot of teams might be able to kind of take advantage of throughout the year. But first, let's kind of talk about on the offensive side of the ball, the positives. Dylan Gabriel looked really good. Didn't play in the second half, but was really efficient, over 300 yards passing. I believe only 3 incompletions on the day. Looked good, looked smooth. Was moving around a little bit better than you can tell. That at least that I could tell, looked a little bit quicker, looked a little bit more decisive. Again, not a whole lot in terms of what he was being from a pressure perspective, what he was being asked to do right there. So yeah, I think that looked really solid. We'll have to continue to monitor that, obviously, as the season goes and as the games get closer. Games get tougher, I should say. But absolutely, I think the running back by committee looked good. Tawi Walker, to me, looked like the best back that played today. I think there was a lot of eyebrows being raised in terms of, okay, is there a little bit of a panic in terms of with him starting versus what's going on with Javonte Barnes, what's going on with Gavin Sawchuk. And so I think it's a little bit of both, right? You've seen some nicks and bruises, and we didn't see Sawchuk today being held out. And Barnes played a little bit there as well. But yeah, I think at a minimum where you're at, if you're an Oklahoma fan, is you have to love the depth that you've seen across that running back room. I think you've got 4 or 5 guys that you feel really comfortable with playing. With Marcus Major, with Tawi Walker, Gavin Sawchuk, and Javonte Barnes. Maybe even in a pinch, you could have a Caleb Hicks there as well. But yeah, really good stuff by our running backs. I think probably for me, the biggest, I don't know if success is the right word, but the thing that I liked the best was looking at our receiving core. They looked much improved over what they were a year ago. I think you've got guys where Andrew Anthony was not even remotely able to be covered at all during this game. So I had a couple of good deep shots. So I think he'll be the guy that will be able to take the top off the defense a little bit. Jalil Farouk, had a couple of runs, wasn't able to get going a lot in terms of, from a receiving perspective. Gavin Freeman, Drake Stoops, Jaden Gibson, Nick Anderson. So I think you've got about 7 or 8 guys that you feel comfortable with right now, and we'll continue to see what that pecking order looks like as the season goes on there. So from an offensive line perspective, I think it was a little bit up and down. I think I'm interested to see Gabe's analysis, after this is over. But in very typical fashion, Oklahoma's offensive line typically does not play well early in the season. They're an offensive line that actually typically ends up getting much better as the season goes on from that cohesiveness perspective. And so I think you still like what you have there. I think they'll continue to improve and continue to be better. But yeah, no, I think everything offensively was fine. They play, obviously, when you put up 73 points, they could have scored 100 if they wanted to. So that's good. Defensively, the biggest thing that you go forward and say you like the depth that they've got across all three levels of the defense. Even though this is not the greatest team in the world that you played against in terms of what that looked like from a talent perspective, you still got to shut out, and that's something that obviously Oklahoma wasn't able to do a year ago. They gave up 13 against UTEP, and so that's an extreme positive as you go and you build with this young team as they continue to get better and go forward. The Probably the biggest concern and I don't know how much of a concern this will be. You need to get a couple more games in and get a better sample size for this, but I think the pass rush wasn't quite what you would like or what you would expect for Oklahoma. Certainly, like I said, that can be better, and that could be part of the game plan. There was not a lot of exotic blitzes and a lot of things to really exploit that, so to speak. But that was the only really didn't get a whole lot of pressure. I think I had one sack late in the game. But not a whole lot, other than that for Oklahoma. But like I said, only gave up no points, 10 first downs, 208 yards of total offense. Forced Arkansas State to go 2 of 12 on third downs. Likewise, Oklahoma was 11 of 13 on third down conversion. So those are a lot of the things that you really, really like if you're an Oklahoma fan. Some of those things, there's a few penalties, but not much for Oklahoma. Just kind of going through the box score here. For the Sooners specifically, Dylan Gabriel, 19 of 22, 308 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Jackson Arnold, 11 for 11, 114 yards with a score. Jackson Arnold looked fantastic for Oklahoma. So I think obviously there's not going to be any sort of a quarterback controversy, or even competition, so to speak, at this point. But I think everything that you're doing with Jackson Arnold is preparing you for next year in the SEC. But then also it's preparing you, if something were to happen to DG, then you feel comfortable and very confident in what you got from a backup perspective with Oklahoma. With Jackson Arnold looked the part without a doubt. Total for Oklahoma, 49 carries for 220 yards, 6 touchdowns on the ground. Javonte Barnes led the way, 13 carries for 49 yards. Tawee Walker, 8 carries for 44. Jackson Arnold, 5 for 39. Marcus Major, 9 for 31. And then you've got Caleb Hicks in there a little bit later, 3 for 14. Dylan Smothers, 7 for 16. So, I think, like I said, the running back core was really solid, really deep. Is really deep. And then you got the wide receivers. You had a lot of different guys making catches. Jaquays Pettaway led the way in terms of number of receptions for 9 catches for 56 yards. A lot of those were really those bubble screens on the end there. And then, but you got Nick Anderson with a really long grab. He led the way, 2 catches for 68 yards. Andrew Anthony had, again, the same thing, 3 catches for 66 yards. Drake Stoops, before the injury, 4 for 56. Jaden Gibson, 2 for 54, including the touchdown. Gavin Freeman, 4 for 19, including the touchdown. So a lot of different guys, got in the act. As you see, 10 guys had a catch for Oklahoma. So that's my kind of my synopsis here. Again, I think it's going to be really interesting for Oklahoma as they go next week and they play SMU, a team. Obviously, that's going to be a much better team than what Oklahoma saw, particularly on the offensive side of the ball for SMU, just kind of challenging this Oklahoma defense maybe a little bit more.